On September 11th, 1997, radio host Art Bell, famous for his coast-to-coast AM radio show, was holding open lines for former and current employees of Area 51 to call in and talk about their time there. And this night was going about how you would expect it to go. Some people who called in sounded credible, had some good, interesting stories, and other people who called in sounded crazy as hell. But then something happened that would live on in radio and Area 51 infamy. So this man calls into the Area 51 call line, and when Art Bell greets him, this man is hysterical, frantic almost. This man claimed that he had been fired from a top-secret military compound in the Nevada desert. I wonder where. But this man said that he could not give up his location because they were following him, and that he needed to get his story out before they triangulated on his position. And Art Bell encouraged this man to get his story out as quickly as possible, which is something that Art Bell did a lot with people he thought sounded crazy. And this is what the frantic man had to say.
Okay, what we're thinking of as aliens are they're extra-dimensional beings that an earlier precursor of the space program made contact with. They are not what they claim to be. They have infiltrated a lot of aspects of the military establishment, particularly the Area 51. The disasters that are coming, the military, the government knows about them, and there's a lot of safe areas in this world that they could begin moving the population to now, Art.
But they're not doing anything.
They are not. They want the major population centers wiped out so that the few that are left will be more easily controllable.
Discharged.
I started getting...
And then silence. Seconds of dead air pass, which is an eternity in radio time. Coast to Coast AM, which at that time was broadcasting to more than 400 radio stations across the nation, was completely cut off. And after seconds of this dead air silence, the Coast to Coast theme song returns. And then Art Bell returns. And you could tell that he was very shaken by this situation that had never happened to him before, in all his decades of radio hosting.
I guess we were about in the middle of his transmission, his telephone call, which was one of the strangest ones I've ever had, and the entire transmitting system by satellite went down here, and we were notified we were off the air, and it would appear to be from this end and some sort of massive transmit failure. So we are now using a backup system to be on the air, and not that I would normally believe this kind of thing, mind you, but I can't help but wonder if somebody zapped us in some way. We'll find out.
And they don't hear from the frantic man again. And at the end of this show, Art Bell confronts his listeners, telling them that what had happened was beyond coincidence, and that it had been done to you. And that was it. They never heard from the frantic man again. They of course did hear from people claiming to be him, but that's all speculation on whether it could have been or not. On April 28, 1998, Brian Glass, an American comic book writer, called Coast to Coast AM and claimed to be the frantic man. He even tried to recreate the sound of the frantic man's voice, with that rushed panic sound to his voice. And of course, speculation is very much in the air on whether he was telling the truth or not. And Brian Glass tried to claim that it had all been a hoax, and it was all part of some game that he liked to play of calling into places as weird, wacky characters. So, was any of this real? Was someone actually being hunted by the government? And was this person actually able to get Coast to Coast AM's satellites knocked off air? Crazier things have happened since. Try not to get hunted by the government. But extra points if you can get a popular radio show knocked off the air.